Okay, we live in the age of movie cameras, and we have for about 100 years. But they're still giving us composites of the Earth. Now, if you look to the right here, this is a composite picture from NASA in 2002. The one to the left is a composite picture. Yeah, a composite from NASA in 2012. Now, if you look at the red lines that I've drawn, the red line to the right is half the size of the line to the left, which means that the mass on the globe to the left is twice the size of the one to the right, but it's the same size globe. Same place, folks. Somebody's screwing up here. This picture's a joke. They can't even get the size of the Earth from the moon correct according to their own calculations. What a bunch of numbnuts.
Those of you who think this technical difficulty was planned and think I'm scamming you, go do it for yourself. Because you're going to find the exact same thing. I got nothing to hide here. This is live on the air, okay? I'm going to zoom in on the Earth in Photoshop. Can you see the Earth? To image, adjust, levels, and I'm going to bring the levels over here. And I'm going to bring the levels up. Uh-oh. What is that? Why is there a square box around the Earth?
Of course, confirmation that wires were used is in the detail. Here in this Apollo 14 footage, you can see a ping, a momentary glint. And again, run slowly. And once more. There are other examples too. This one is from Apollo 17 during the flag scene. You can see the ping at the top of the frame. In this footage from Apollo 16, we have telltale evidence of a slightly floating or dangling effect at the jump salute location. It's as if the weight is being taken off the astronaut's feet just a second or so too soon. Compare that sequence with an obvious rehearsal rig. The dangling effect is very evident. And here again, from the same mission, Apollo 16, we have an astronaut who is about to get up.
Give me a hand. Okay, here we go.
Let me give you a hand, he says.
There goes bag. There goes another bag. Bag. Coming.
Look at it again. The astronaut is getting up with the wire taking the weight, relieving him of 5/6 of the Earth's gravity. A magic trick? No, just the help of a wireman. This is a slow-motion jump that would have been seen live on TV. And here it is at normal speed. The well-rehearsed, pre-recorded material was apparently slowed down by 50% when we saw it on TV. And yes, we've done the necessary work to establish that percentage.
The main reason I believe all manned space travel is fake is because the re-entry vehicles are fake. I'll go through all of that in detail. First though, let's have a look at the International Space Station. I want to talk about some of the anomalies I see there. For the inside of the International Space Station, there are a couple of zero-gravity tricks that they use to fake it. The first is they have a complete mock-up of the International Space Station built on the inside of an airplane. And that airplane does a bunch of rises and falls. It does a parabolic, upside-down parabolic trajectory, and that simulates zero gravity for traditionally about 30 seconds at the most. I think they can do it to about 45 seconds, judging by the length of time of these segments. They have to do a hard break, or they have to put the camera to the wall or away from a person, or they can link scenes together. They're quite clever in the CGI. It's difficult to tell all of their tricks. The other main way they simulate the zero gravity is with suspension in front of a blue screen. And they use that trick for extended periods of time, for longer than 45-second segments. But they can't move around as much. They can't do the acrobatic flips and rolls in the extended mode. So there's full motion mode where they can fully move around, and that's faked in a plane. And then there's suspended or extended mode where they're suspended by wires in front of a blue screen. They don't move around as much, but they can make the scene last for a longer period of time. In this scene, Chris Hadfield bends down in order to adjust something, and you can see on the back of his shirt a couple of upticks on either side where you would expect wires to come in on either side of that harness in order to support it. Of course, they've computer graphicked out the supporting wires. You can't actually see them, but what you can see is a very slight discoloration where it's slightly lighter and then it goes slightly darker. And that's strange. That shows a couple of things. First of all, it shows that this isn't live from space. They're often portraying that this is live. Of course, these things are fully choreographed and edited in advance to make sure that there's nothing too obvious that you can see that gives away that this is a suspension in front of a blue screen hoax. The other thing it shows is that this is not raw footage coming to us. This is edited stuff. This is supposed to be a legitimate space program. This is supposed to be the International Space Station, and we should be able to see whatever's going on. But they edit things because the whole thing is edited. In one extended mode scene, Chris Hadfield on the right is going back. He's going back, and then he just stops. That's an odd motion. You would expect if this was true zero gravity that you have to support yourself, you have to stop yourself on both the top and the bottom of your body as you're drifting back. If you just stop yourself with your feet, then your head will rotate backwards. Conversely, if you just hang on at the top with your hands, then your feet will still keep moving. You have to support yourself at both the top and the bottom of your body. But his hands, Chris Hadfield's hands, aren't touching anything. He just goes back and then he stops. And that's odd. You can see a sort of a harness sticking through the T-shirt of Chris Hadfield. It's a harness that's around the waist. That's how they're supported. Also notice that Chris Hadfield has the habit of bringing his knees up. That's because his stomach muscles aren't as strong. He doesn't have as much midriff strength as some of the others who are able to elongate their body and make the hoax look a bit more realistic. He's constantly bringing his knees up because he's not as strong as the others. Occasionally, though, the others bring their knees up too. Notice that in the extended scenes, which seems to be done in front of a blue screen, like if you have a look at this guy going back towards the screen, there's some strange shadows there, look like they're CGI'd in. Using computer graphics, they edit out the supporting wires and edit in these rotating floating objects. They always seem very concerned with the object. Chris Hadfield looks at it very closely. You don't want the object getting too far out of control, because if it starts bouncing off the cabin in a weird way or goes back to the blue screen, it could ruin the whole illusion. They also don't bounce those oranges off the walls. I'd like to see them get a tennis ball and throw it around really hard and fast. And I'd like to see them do-si-do each other really quickly, which they can't do, or they'd get all their wires tangled up. It wouldn't be water leaking into someone's helmet and a person almost drowning in space. How can you drown in space? They now wear snorkels to make sure that they don't drown in space. How can this be happening? A snorkel in space? There could be some water in the porous plate sublimator. When they were on the moon, they supposedly had about a gallon of water, but that cooling system is supposed to be well away from their head. There really is no sane explanation for why a gallon of water would leak into someone's spacesuit, unless you realize the whole thing is faked inside a swimming pool. In this scene, you can see the Chinese spacewalk, and you can see a bubble coming up from the guy's suit. How do you have a bubble in space? Space is supposed to be a vacuum, not a swimming pool, which is the faking of spacewalks in a swimming pool. In this vid, you catch a glimpse of someone wearing a scuba tank. Scuba tanks in space? Snorkels and scuba tanks in space?
Hello, we are going to be discussing this door mainly. Do you see this door? This door there. Oi, bend. Did you see? Look, bend. He kick it with his heels. Bend. Bend. It's not a trick of the light, it bend. Bend. Ah, there they are coming out. And there is the door. Oh, they look like horrible maggots coming out of a not very delicious fruit. There is the door. This is a bend. It's a bending. Look. Oh, this is really, really bad bending. This is not metal. What is this? Why this door open out? All the pressure is inside. Shouldn't the door close out, not open out? Ah, look, it's closed now, it's secure. It looks very strong.
Abracadabra, Alakazam. NASA's run is over. Give them a hand. Man, it's done. It's finished, folks. Everybody wrap it up in NASA, 'cause they've been exposed. This is the final straw. Say bye to NASA, 'cause they got caught using blue screen. So while George H.W. Bush was visiting a NASA center, some cameraman accidentally caught a glimpse of a screen, and on that screen was somebody in the ISS standing in front of a blue screen? I thought blue screens were just for movies, not for things in real life, right? So let's check this video out, okay? Did you see? Are you seeing that? Those arrows. Let me just show you this again in slow motion. Ground. But if it was all real, why would you need to? I don't know. No clue. So here's a side-by-side using the blue screen versus what they actually filmed. Obviously the same person, the same location. It's a joke. Same off-screen objects. So you know this is real. Then we have our boy in the blue screen. Because how do we know that's a space station? They're just changing the background, right? I think that's just a zero-G plane that they go in and they film all their stuff and they edit it all together and then they show it to us. So here's what the inside of a zero-G plane looks like, right? And then we see the ISS interior, and boy, that just looks like a zero-G plane. You might be doubting that this blue screen thing was real, right? You think they're actually up there? All right, so let me show you this footage of an astronaut floating in the ISS, and he turns the corner and goes into a little doorway. But, oh, did you see that? I mean, did this nigga just went invisible? I mean, is he Violet from The Incredibles? He has superpowers that makes him go invisible? Unlikely. Is he an alien? He's a secret race that can go invisible? Is that what you're thinking? No, I think it's just video manipulation, right? That's what it is. We can all assume that it's video manipulation because nobody can go invisible, right? I can't go invisible. And if it was video manipulation, that means there wasn't enough space back there to actually enter. They had to fade him out. They had to lower the opacity, right? I mean, look, he's invisible.
Having seen hundreds of rocket firings when I was employed by Rocketdyne, I know that the jet of the lunar module lander, the lunar lander, would have created an enormous crater. It would have scoured the moon's surface. It would have tossed up rocks, sand, everything, and created a crater maybe so large that the entire lunar lander could have sunk into it. After all, we're dealing with a 10,000-pound thrust engine, which is pointed directly at the surface, lowered into the surface, and yet, if you look at pictures of the lunar lander on the moon, there is no disturbance whatsoever under the lunar lander's rocket.
And no dust deposited in the pads, the cup-shaped pads at the bottom.
That's another good point. Dust would have been blown 6 ways from Sunday.
75 feet. Guys looking good. Down a half. 6 forward. 60 seconds. Lights on. Forward. Forward. 40 feet. Down 2.5. Picking up some dust. Straight shadow. 4 forward. Drifting to the right a little. 30 seconds. Forward.
There are 2 major problems with this Apollo landing. Number 1, that you can see that there is some dust being blown around as it's landing, but no dust on the pads of the lunar lander. Number 2, this is not the way dust is blown out from underneath a 10,000-pound thrust engine. Sorry, but this is just not true.
Do is, first of all, point out the fact that Graybeard Mountain should be down 770 feet. Down this way, somewhere around in here. And it should appear lower than Frying Pan Mountain. And the fact that Bald Knob and Graybeard are essentially the same elevation, you can draw a horizontal line across them. And you're going to get a really accurate result. You're going to know that what you think you're looking at is what you're looking at. The camera's not tilted radically, giving the illusion of Frying Pan Mountain being lower. Frying Pan Mountain is lower, clearly, and it should be higher, visually speaking. Okay, so we're going to get rid of the horizontal line and Frying Pan Mountain and Graybeard. And we're going to leave Pinnacle and Bald Knob because they are roughly the same distance from the camera position, and the average difference in elevation between the two is 260 feet, which looks like this. So, that is 260 feet. And again, that is an average of the resources that I used for elevations. Some sites listed the difference at 280 feet. Other sites listed it as little as 240. I chose 260 as a nice median number. And again, I could change that number by 10 or 15 feet, and it's not going to have any sort of real impact on the final rendering. The outcome will basically be about the same. So 260 feet times 3 looks like this. So 1, 2, 3 is 780 feet, which is the approximate declination which should occur and is not present in this observation. So the declination we should be witnessing should be from here to there. So, in other words, let's get rid of all this now, and get rid of Pinnacle and we'll put Graybeard back. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our scale reference for the declination that we should be observing and move it over to Graybeard Mountain. And then we're going to get rid of all of the lines but the bottom line, and this is roughly where the top of Graybeard Mountain should be. So, this is our outline of our mountains. Then our mountains should actually be roughly down about here, not up here. So if we go by the mainstream accepted and taught curvature formula for the spherical surface of the Earth, then Graybeard Mountain should not even be visible. We shouldn't be able to see it. So, and maybe, as I've mentioned multiple times, the elevations are slightly off by 20, 30, 40 feet. And so maybe Graybeard should be right there. Or maybe I'm out of level with the camera, and Graybeard should be right here. But there's no possible way Graybeard should be right here. It should be there, roughly speaking. We should not be able to see it. So this is the conundrum, the paradox, the thing that I have tried to figure out ever since I collected this data.
Another heartbreak day. Feels like you're miles away. Don't even need no shade when your sun don't shine. Shine. Too many passing dreams roll by like limousines. It's hard to keep believing when they pass you by.